Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Heart of Innovation's Vascular Spotlight, brought to you by Vascular Cures and The Way to My Heart, nonprofits that care about saving life and limb. Today, we are featuring an entrepreneur who wants interventional vascular specialists to increase efficiency and efficacy in the cath lab during a procedure to diagnose and unblock arteries. Bradley Beach is the founder and CEO of Covellus. Bradley, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
So first of all, paint the picture of the need that you saw in the marketplace when it comes to these interventional procedures that got you thinking, okay, it's time to change the paradigm in how these medical devices are developed.
Right. Well, it's, my background is developing product solutions. I'm an engineer. So, and I've been involved in, medical device startups, specifically catheter-based interventions. But my background isn't to develop a new treatment or therapy. That's not where my, skills are. So and that's usually how people think of innovation in this. But what I saw from my perspective was really just this one way that people conceptualize the design of these types of products. And in fact, if I go back to flexible stenting solutions, all of the emphasis was on just the stent and not necessarily the actual catheter system to get it there. That was an afterthought. So nobody thinks about that as, okay, how can we rethink that to make that more efficient and actually an innovation? So I was in a great position several years ago, and I had this really interesting idea. And the idea was a modular approach, where the physician combines two modules in the catheter lab to create some kind of building a catheter device, right? And I immediately, my background, like the bit of experience I have is in peripheral vascular, and obviously I kind of gravitated towards that and thought about ways that physicians could use PTA balloons specifically, because it's a workhorse device, as kind of the base module in this system, right? So that now a way for them to add features to that PTA balloon so that they can, address whatever the situation is on the table, whether it's, something to help them cross a tight lesion, or they want to use monorail style techniques, or maybe even adding a drug coating to it, believe it or not. I think there's a lot of really interesting ways that technology's modular system can be deployed to kind of give the physicians a lot more versatility in how they treat their patients.
Using that balloon example, if you're saying that you would give the doctor the ability to on premises add that drug to the balloon, what would that look like? It would come with a little container of medicine that they would just somehow, squeeze into the balloon?
No.
On top of it?
Yeah, that's, I know this is part of the problem I have, is like in my mind, I have these ideas and it's hard to explain what they actually are. But in this case, the idea for the drug delivery adapter came out of, you may be familiar with scoring balloons or cutting balloons, right? So that's effectively, you put these kind of wire elements along the balloon length so that you focus the force of the balloon. It's called focus force angioplasty, and you more efficiently dilate the lesion, right? So I actually invented or developed a scoring adapter so that the physician can add a tip. So when they add it to the tip of the distal end of the balloon, it includes these wires that run along the length of the balloon, and that's basically effectively creating a scoring balloon from a standard balloon, right? Mm-hmm. And actually, one of the things we did was some veterinary work where we used it on some dogs with the help of some veterinarians, and to dilate pulmonary valves. And in fact, one of the reasons it was useful is because scoring balloons commercially available aren't big enough for that. So the doctor would need say a 12 millimeter scoring balloon, but only an 8 millimeter commercially exists. Well, you don't have that issue with a modular system, right? You're basically, you take your standard 12 millimeter balloon and you can add, you you can add the scoring wires to it. So you can take any size balloon and add scoring wires. That's the beauty of a modular system. You're creating something that may not have always existed. So back to the drug delivery. Okay. So that success led me to think, you know what? I could put a polymer mesh over the balloon for, using that same idea. Essentially, the doctor attaches the tip and the polymer mesh goes over the balloon, and the polymer mesh has the excipient and the therapy, say paclitaxel, and that is what gets delivered. So now you can think of it like you can take any balloon and you turn it into a drug-coated balloon.
That's interesting. This modular approach is used in quite a few different areas. Why? Give us some examples, such as the screwdriver. And why do you think it has not transcended into medical devices, such as the ones used in these interventional procedures?
Right. That's a good point, because if you look around us, like in almost all areas, you'll find modular solutions, right? And they may not be always evident, but yeah, you've got hand tools, you have cameras, like a computer is a good example of a modular solution. There's some lawn equipment. I've got a drill, right? Again, I have a Makita drill, and I got a bunch of different tips and batteries, and the whole thing is modular, right? So it's there, and industries migrate to it because honestly, the economic benefit and the competitive advantages just can't be ignored. There's the market drives it that way. So why hasn't it happened yet? I mean, I can speculate.
We love speculation.
All right, I'll speculate all day. So I just think it's not like, that's not typically what people think of as in terms of innovation and also value creation. Like in the minimally invasive catheter procedures are still relatively young, and people think of innovation and value creation in terms of new therapies and expanding the patient population that can be treated. So, and not really thinking, kind of more of the nuts and bolts of how to design products.
And in terms of these particular devices, I would imagine that this market, these doctors are already used to a similar approach. They slip the wire in, and most of the devices go right over that wire.
Yes. So the idea that I can interchange, equipment, I think it may not be a big leap. I know it's just
they
like
slip a balloon over, they slip a stent over. Most of the atherectomy devices, I think, except for one laser, ends up going over the wire. Everything uses
I think it's just a step, right? I think when they get their mind around it, they can see that it's just the next evolutionary step.
Mm-hmm. I definitely see that. So have you heard these interventional vascular specialists screaming about inconveniences in the cath lab because they don't have this sort of modular approach?
Well, they don't even know about modular approach, so it hasn't even entered their consciousness. But when I present the idea to them, it often the light bulb goes off.
If you can reduce the amount of stuff they need to buy ahead of time, and also pile onto the shelves in these very small rooms to make sure that they're accessible in real time, I think that could be really valuable to the doctor.
Yeah, no, I think product solutions can be designed and maybe even tailored so that for workflow optimization, right? So I think that's one of the advantages there. I mean, there's a lot, but you can leverage those modular economies to create solutions that can tailor that kind of workflow optimization, right? So they're not standing there waiting, yelling out the door for where's my stuff or whatever, right? Yeah, less frustration for sure.
But what about cost? What about reimbursement? I can imagine with the individual devices, there are predicate devices, but once you put them into a system such as this, I would think that would be a whole new FDA study that would not be based on a predicate device. You'd have to do something completely new.
Well, this is one of the, I think, really interesting and untapped advantages of this type of system. Because I've had 3 pre-submission meetings with the FDA for some of the PTA balloon products. And I went into it, there's something called an accessory classification, right? So it's a device that's meant to be used with another device, with a parent device, right? And so I knew, okay, well, that's kind of what I'm doing. But I thought it was going to be a de novo. I thought, okay, we got to go down this de novo path. It's going to be a pain. But when I met with the FDA, it like within the first 30 seconds, like, no, you don't need to do that. It's actually way simpler. Believe it or not, the predicate device is the parent device. So the predicate device is the PTA balloon. And the light bulb went off my head. And I was like, with the right structure, you could really, like the right structure, like this modular system, you could really take advantage of that regulatory path. And that could be one of the things that's like, that really helps the modular economies. But it hits it everywhere. It's concept development. Think about this. Say you want to like help a physician, you're a company, you want to help a physician with their pain points, right? It's like, oh, I wish we had something that does this. Instead of having to develop like an entire catheter, maybe you develop just the very tip end of it that attaches to something they already use. And that is a way to speed that concept development up. And it hits all along there. It's like concept development, design, regulatory, manufacturing, right? I'm not manufacturing 100 SKUs, I'm manufacturing one, and inventory. So I don't know, that's it.
And you're talking mainly, if you're thinking like stents or balloons where they just need different sizes, different features on them.
Right. Yes. But I think, down the road, if you once this concept starts to be, brought into the consciousness of our industry, there'll be new and different ways to contemplate how to design these types of product solutions, right? And some of the more advanced things, I think, would be incorporating, electrical elements into it, say like advanced imaging or, advanced, maybe some advanced therapies. So I think it's also can be an enabling technology going forward.
Gotcha. I still see it as just an extension of what they already do, with the wire being, in a sense, that screwdriver, and then the stents and the balloons being the interchangeable heads.
Yeah. Well, it's it's something like that. I think it's a good way to think about it. And I think maybe it's a good way to kind of couch it to physicians that it's really just like the next stepping stone. It's like you guys are like there and then taking that next step.
So, where are you at in terms of development? Are you doing this all yourself, or are you looking for partners to just take your designs and run with it with you?
Right. So I'm doing it mostly myself. Like I said, I've been fortunate in a couple ways. One is I was fortunate to be in a position to kind of start this development myself. And it's, I don't know, because of my experience, I have a lot of experience in the different elements of design ideation, patenting, manufacturing. So I could do a lot of it myself, right? But ultimately, Covellus, I'm not really interested in commercializing it. That's not where my core strengths are, right? So I'd like to get it to the point where I find strategic partners that are interested in this technology, see the value in it, and they have, the infrastructure, the reach, and the interest in bringing this kind of new paradigm to the market and improving, outcomes for patients.